26th at 9 o'clock, and we are in room 1010. This is the Information Technology and General Services Committee. And Mr. Clerk, how many items do we have on the agenda?
We have 8 items today.
All right, why don't we just take it from the top and go through the agenda one by one. Item number 1.
Okay, item number 1 is a motion from Council Members Alarcon and Wesson relative to the lease with the Boys and Girls Clubs of San Fernando Valley, the city-owned property at the intersection of Van Nuys Boulevard and Glen Oaks Boulevard in Pacoima, California.
Okay, do we have staff here to report on this item? Oh, boy. So we don't have staff here to report on this item?
It doesn't look as that way.
Okay, why don't we see if we can get somebody from... I just need somebody from staff, like CAO or something, to say that they've reviewed this and that the terms are acceptable. Otherwise, I guess I'll have to hold. All right, so they... Okay, why is it... Okay, hold on a second. It's just a motion, so the motion was calendared, and we don't have a staff report at this point.
No, we do not have a staff report.
Okay, well then I guess we'll kick it over to the next meeting. And can we have a staff report? I just need to know that, we're paying a competitive rate. I don't expect that there will be a problem with this, that the club's invested an enormous amount of money over the last 25 years, and they've also raised a good sum of money to the tune of $20 million for their program operations, so they've been a good tenant, if you will. But I do need the underlying staff report to be done. Is this matter time sensitive at all?
I don't believe so.
Is there anybody here from Mr. Alarcon's office? Okay. Why don't you speak to this?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Saeed Ali from Councilmember Richard Alarcon's staff. Thank you for considering this item today. The staff report is not available. I've asked the General Services Division a number of times, and they said that they needed to study it. But just so you know, the Boys and Girls Club received a lease from the city on a term, I believe, of $1 a year. And that lease was executed in October 1982. Mm-hmm. And it expired approximately 10 years ago, and they have been on a month-to-month lease since. Mm-hmm. The motion just requests that all the terms in this lease be kept, no change in that, except for the term of the lease be for 30 years.
Is there any reason that you know why they haven't produced a staff report?
I don't want to speculate, but I've really asked them, including the Assistant General Manager, to try and get a report done, provided them with a copy of this lease and to give them the terms, but they have not been able to do that.
But this doesn't make any sense. Hold on a second. This doesn't make any sense.
If the council were to If the committee were to be pleased to approve it and send it to the council, the final lease will come back with a report.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's just do this because I know this club very well. I'm going to instruct the staff to do a report and get it done for next week, and I'll have a special meeting. It'll take all of, probably 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to instruct the CAO with GSD and CDD and the city attorney to report the required actions that need to be done to lease this city-owned property to the Boys and Girls Club of the San Fernando Valley for an additional 30 years. So we can get this done in one shot, but I do want the underlying report. So, Mr. Clerk, if you could make sure, I'd like to have it done by next week, and then we'll calendar a short meeting with a one-item agenda and take care of this, and maybe put a placeholder in council for next Friday. Okay?
Very appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to item 2.
Item number 2 is a motion from from council members Huizar and Buscano relative to the relocation of the Los Angeles City View Channel 35 studio to the Merced Theater.
Morning, Councilwoman. My name is Chris Espinosa, El Pueblo Historical Monument, and we'll pass down.
Mahmoud Karimzadeh with BRF Engineering, Principal Architect.
Steve Reneker, General Manager of the ITA.
Mark Wolf, Executive Officer, ITA.
Before you is a motion today directing the Information Technology, Bureau of Engineering, and El Pueblo Historical Monument to report to your committee regarding the relocation of Channel 35 to the Merced Theater. I'd like to note that this is a collaborative project in which they're trying to find the location for a new permanent site for the Channel 35. Right now, they're in lease space in Little Tokyo. So staff has, at the direction of the Municipal Facilities Committee, had Information Technology, Bureau of Engineering, and El Pueblo report and meet at the site to see if it fit the city standards. We did so, and all parties are interested in moving forward. I'd like to turn it over to Mahmoud Karimzadeh to give the details of what the site assessment specifics are.
Good morning. We had to look at 5 different sites in order to come to the conclusion that the Merced Theater is the best place. We had developed the criteria for the selection of the location. And when we look at the Merced Theater from 5 or 6 criteria that we had developed, the building locations, the situations, the city-owned building, the proximity to the city hall looked great. However, when we met with our design team and our basically host department, El Pueblo, and also with our client into the building details and assessment, we found that really is a good location for this relocation in terms of the few facts. 1, that the building is unoccupied. 2, that the reduced hazardous abatement cost. Any location we looked at, we had to deal with enormous abatements. And also the fact that the improvement cost in the facade of the building was minimal. The power availability to the building was one of the most important decision breaker for us. Loading and parking availability, the building program requires the loading and unloading availability and the first floor access to the loading dock. And also proximity to the city hall, which was a very important, one of the most important requirement of the relocation. And also the proximity to fiber optic network bank. The building met all these requirements, and it deemed the best location.
Other than going from a lease to ownership, what's the most compelling reason to do this?
Well, one of the biggest reasons is that the property is one of the city's historic treasures. And they've been sitting as shells. So they've been structurally stabilized in the year 2000, but essentially they've been sitting there for years. Right now, it's a general fund liability. So any improvements, capital improvements generally at a Pueblo Historical Monument come from the general fund. So this account in particular is the Public Education and Governmental Access Fund that ITA collects through a cable tax. So it's a special fund, and it can only be used for construction of Channel 35 studios or public access. So by shifting those funds over to the Merced Theater, it would be a substantial reduction in liability in terms of the general fund usage, and it would very much improve a very special site right there across from La Plaza de Cultura.
And it can go for pre-construction too?
Excuse me?
Pre-construction? The schematics?
Yes, so the Municipal Facilities Committee
PEG money can go for pre-construction?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, I misunderstood. It can be used for anything related to construction of that particular facility.
So, again, other than restoring an asset that we own, reducing our liability, have you done an analysis about how much money we'll save?
Our assessment shows that the construction and design and equipment cost of this project will be somewhere around $19 to $23 million. In terms of the saving, the other locations that we looked at had problem with. We really couldn't relocate the Channel 35 to those buildings. So this was our best choice.
But I believe the general manager could speak to lease costs over at Little Tokyo.
Yeah, our lease costs are actually higher there. We also have a lot of changes that need to be made at that facility. So having those changes being made at the Merced Theater allows staff to just maintain what we have and be able to move into a new revised infrastructure. So for that, it's significant. And the PEG funds do have specific use only for equipment and facilities. So this is an appropriate use for those funds.
Yeah, and what sort of changes did you need to have done over at the Little Tokyo facility?
Good morning, council members. Mark Wolf. The facility, for the past 3 years, we've had the need to move from the legacy technology that's currently in place to support the studio, which is called analog technology, to digital. And in order to do such a upgrade, it requires extensive work throughout the facility that typically studios that do this type of upgrade, they move to a new facility because it would be too disruptive to stay in an existing facility while that level of work is performed.
Well, what does that entail?
So it entails putting in place all new equipment that is digital equipment for not only filming, but the editing equipment and the rest of the cabling and so forth that is throughout the facility. So it's really changing it, modernizing the equipment to now support digital technology, which the rest of the world is now already using in their production of any type of video format.
So if we proceed on this and you begin the construction on the new facility over at the Merced, and we'll still be operating on a, month to month over at Little Tokyo?
There'll be a small period possibly at the end, towards the latter part of the construction, where we would be month to month, but the term of the contract is actually pretty close to the end date of the projected end date for the construction.
What is the projected end date?
We are anticipating the construction to be completed by April 2016.
Mr. Buscano is here. I think he may want to ask some questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to see you, and also great to hear that, this is a move that I support, specifically on the issue of moving Channel 35 into the future. In addition to transferring from analog to digital and spending the money to do that, my concern is the seismic retrofitting at the Merced location. Can you explain to us what estimate cost of how much that will cost us to do that? And will this be paid out of the 1% fund?
Sure. The whole construction cost comes from the 1% fund. However, the Merced Theater been built in 1870s. It's a 3-story building. It has been received 2 rehabilitation during the after construction, basically. In 1960s, the state of California made some rehabilitation of seismic retrofit to the building, and also in 2001, the building received a major seismic rehabilitation. However, since 2001, we need to do additional structural work for 2 reasons. One, the fact that since there was no use at the time of 2001, the structural work were not complete. 2, because of the recent code changes, we have to upgrade the structural retrofit. The building will receive mostly shear walls throughout the exterior walls and some inside the building, and it will restore the floor assemblies to the wall assemblies in order to seismically finish the rehabilitation.
And what's the timeline and the completion of the entire retrofitting?
We are anticipating the construction completion in April 2016.
And as far as Channel 35 is concerned, what are our plans on utilizing social media as we move forward?
So a couple of things we're doing there right now is we're actually establishing a City of LA YouTube channel. Okay. So a lot of the content that we have, we're looking at, more importantly, trying to close caption the footage and then placing it on YouTube in high definition. So those are initially our thoughts. And in doing so, as we update those YouTube videos, there'll be updates that'll be broadcast in the new lacity.org website, as well as the new coming up Mobile 311 application.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so do you want to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I move that we approve item 2.
I'm sorry. Jackie Wagner with the CAO's office, and I apologize if you do not yet have a copy of our report that was sent by the Municipal Facilities Committee dated March 21st on this. We'd ask that you adopt our recommendations, which is to authorize the BOE and ITA proceed with the design feature, the design portion of the project, and use up to $1.3 million in
1.4 million for a schematic design for the project by BOE?
It's 1.3. We acknowledge the assignment of the Merced Theater located at 420 North Main Street to the ITA to be used as a new studio and administrative building for the Channel 35 television studio. Authorize a transfer of a total of $1.3 million from the TDA fund, 300 from account 32008H and $1 million from account 32008J to the Capital Improvement Expenditure Program, Fund 154, and also authorize the controller and the CAO to make necessary technical corrections to effectuate the intent of the instructions.
So there seems to be a bit of a difference in my briefing notes. Is that going to cause a problem in getting this project done by 1.4 million? You have less. I don't know how to reconcile this.
Well, in the 2011-12 budget, there was $300,000 that was approved to do the study and to look at the initial list of 5 locations. We are totally in agreement with them using that 300, but at the MFC meeting, the MFC considered the entire request from the BOE and ITA to proceed with the project, but the budget range of 19 to 23 million was too far ranging. There were too many things that were not defined per se, and the MFC instructed the BOE and ITA to proceed with $1 million in funding. That was discussed in the meeting.
Let's go with the lower amount. Fine.
Okay.
That'll be the recommendation.
No objection.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3.
Item number 3 is a motion from Council Members Buscano and Garcetti relative to the feasibility of conducting a direct sale of city-owned property in Wilmington to Habitat for Humanity, Greater Los Angeles, for the development of affordable single-family homes.
All right, got a report on that? No report?
No, we just have the motion as of right now.
Go ahead with your instructions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This property was supposed to be sold to CRLA for the development of affordable single-family homes. This was years ago, but since the dissolution of the CRA, and also delusion as well, it's never happened. Property was put on surplus list and has remained there since 2009. Habitat for Humanity is still interested in purchasing this property. Local stakeholders and Council District 15 are supportive of the development. I'm just excited to see this move forward finally, and just like to see the information presented this morning. Anything we have?
Yes. Just good morning.
Morning.
I'm Manuel Bernal with the Los Angeles Housing Department, Director of Major Projects and Single Family now. I know George and my staff have been meeting with the other departments to coordinate the transfer, and at this point we've reached a point where we decided that it is feasible. It's a feasible project. There are some recommendations we need to work out, so we need about 2 weeks to formalize those and bring them back for a full recommendation.
Okay, so we'll continue this, Madam Chair, if you're okay with that, and prepare a written report from the Housing Department with the assistance of GSD, CAO, City Attorney, and the CLA back to this committee at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That'll be the recommendation. Item 4 is next.
Item number 4 is a report from the Information Technology Agency relative to the city's February 12, 2013 internet outage.
Okay. A couple of things I'd like to accomplish with this today is Obviously, we want to adopt the motion. I want ITA to proceed with preparing a report back on items 3, 4, and 5. Those involve the utilization of the current vendor network to conduct an assessment of the city's network design, to optimize the internet access services to increase performance, and then ITA to work with the fire department and the police department to implement redundant internet access for 911 dispatch centers to avoid future internet outages. And then 5 is for ITA to work with LAPD to isolate their own network traffic on its own firewall to reduce the impact of non-law enforcement impact. So I want the report back on those 3 items, and then I'd like to hold on the remaining recommendations 1 and 2 to give the CAO and the Personnel Department and the City Attorney time to do an analysis on the budgetary issues, the labor issues, and any legal issues that might arise with the implementation of 1 and 2 on blocking employee access to streaming audio, video, as well as contacting social media sites, and the issue of a monthly employee internet usage reporting system that would enable department management to ensure appropriate internet access usage by staff. So I think that basically what I just said is we'll continue the whole thing with some
Very good.
to report back, and then basically all those items require a report back.
Okay, will do.
Okay, do you want to add anything?
I just, luckily, when the system went down for a little over 3 hours, it didn't adversely impact police and fire. It's just, to me, it's unacceptable that this occurred. And I want to thank Ms. Perry for moving forward on these recommendations. Any idea as far as improvements that you have planned, or?
We've already got proactive staff looking at streaming video in this particular case, which was the cause of the incident, one of them. And so we're ahead of the game now. Anytime we see any activity from a streaming perspective due to incidents that are occurring out there, we block that. So we will now prevent the networks from going down from a video streaming perspective.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to proceed with recommendations 3, 4, and 5 and come back with that report.
Will do.
And 1 and 2. Everybody needs to do their due diligence on that
Yes, ma'am.
and then come back to me on that.
You bet.
Okay? We'll do that 30 days?
Yes.
All right, that was item 4. Item 5.
Item number 5 is a report from the Information Technology Agency relative to the feasibility of developing an open data website for the City of Los Angeles.
Mr. Chairman and council member, we had gotten a council motion from Garcetti, Argelander, and Buscano regarding taking a look at social media capabilities where we could share city data over our website. This has become a pretty big trend throughout the nation, where it really provides transparency to government regarding specific data sets. And also from an economic development standpoint, it really provides capabilities for incubators, technology incubators out there, as well as, events such as City of LA hosting a hackathon, where these individuals will gain access to data and be able to develop applications from it. Some which may not turn into anything, others that could turn into, who knows, maybe the next Facebook out there, right, hosted in the Los Angeles area. So what we are looking at in taking a look at this, we took a look at a variety of different open data sites that are available, vendors that are in that marketplace, and probably the largest is a company named Socrato. We have talked to Socrato. They're willing to offer a 4-month pilot for the City of Los Angeles for free. What we would have to do is collaborate with all the departments that are the owners of that data to make sure that they would give permission to be able to place that up on the city's website. We'd be looking at probably about 10 data sets initially that would be updated and maintained over that 4-month period. And then after that, we'd be taking a look at coming back to this group and providing feedback on whether it makes sense to continue that going forward, whether the take rate was high enough, and if an investment of approximately $50,000, $80,000, which would be the estimated annual hosting amount for all that data going forward, if it would make sense to go ahead and continue to do so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you. If you look at the other major cities across the country, how effective have they been in this type of software moving forward on the open data movement?
It's really mixed. I mean, there's some that haven't had much take rate at all. You take a look at San Francisco and Chicago. They have very large initiatives, probably have hundreds of data sets that are out there. And I think some of the data sets don't get touched much at all, but others are. And so I think you're seeing some of the technology incubators now starting to engage, especially a lot of the local universities, colleges in the area, now know that they have a source of data they can use to prototype applications. And then also public groups that are able to go out and they see the transparency of government and being able to gain access to particular data. So I think a lot of it depends on, rather than just providing the data set there, what is the application in the front end that can leverage it and easily display it? Because a lot of people aren't just application developers. Other people just want to be able to view the data. So I think, and depending on what manufacturer we end up choosing, we want to try to choose someone that's got a viewer or a mapping type of technology they'll be able to easily analyze the data that's available to them.
Have you reached out to any other departments and getting their buy-in on this?
We have a IT policy committee which has representations of the director of systems and lead IT people from each of the city departments. We briefly discussed it. We haven't specifically drilled down to identify the specific data sets yet that we'd want to post, but at least they know there's some initiative coming forward to ITGS, and if in fact the decision is to move forward, many of them will go back and identify what pieces of data they feel would be.
You came from Riverside. Did your city of Riverside have something like this?
We tried to put up an open data site. The problem that we had was the viewing technology. We didn't have any funding available for the effort, so we just put up raw data sets that were up there. So I would say that it was leveraged by the technology industry, some of the technology incubators out there, but from the public as a whole, because it was in formats that weren't easily accessible to them, it wasn't that useful. So I would say that as things evolved and as technologies evolved, and in their particular case, as their budgets change, I believe they'll invest in that technology to be able to provide those tools that are necessary.
I think it's our turn, and quite frankly, kind of embarrassing that we don't have anything like this in the second largest city in the country. But my other question, how is this going to impact the workforce? I know this is great for more efficient, effective, more transparent government, but in times of furloughing and layoffs, how is this going to impact our workforce?
And it could have an impact because there's the need for people to build these interfaces that will keep the data current. The worst thing we could do is come up with a website and then the data is stagnant and it's not refreshed. So we need to definitely work with those departments. There is some resource required on their end that many of them would probably just have to absorb, and it could be significant, probably 40 hours a month for some individual resource to be able to provide that update up to the website. Other cities out there, like Seattle, like San Francisco, like Chicago, have developed a position called the Chief Data Officer that really is an individual that works with all the departments to identify the proper content and to ensure that the site is updated and maintained. So that is something we're lacking here. So we're trying to build a coordinated effort really without a coordinator. So that is something that's at risk.
Very good. Yes, I move that to approve this item. No objection.
All right. Next item is number 6, correct?
Yes. Item number 6, a report from the Department of General Services relative to renewing a license with JL Vigness Ranch Incorporated for a communications site on top of Oak Mountain in Chatsworth.
Got a report on this?
We do have a report from General Services.
Okay. Who's going to make it? Nobody. Well, I actually did have a question. They're not here, but
Stepping up for the team.
what do you want to do?
We would like to have the recommendations in the report approved. The recommendation to continue the lease is consistent with the city's space optimization plan, and the funding for the lease is contained in GSD's leasing account.
What do you want to do about the CPI? Because it's not really known what the CPI would be until the rent modifications are calculated by the landlord, so that's open-ended. So how do we address that if we move ahead on this?
As far as the CPI, it's been an ongoing issue for the Municipal Facilities Committee, and by the way, my name is Jacqueline Vernon Wagner, Office of the CAO, and I'm liaison to the Municipal Facilities Committee. We've seen varying numbers, 3%, 4% CPI that's written into the renewed leases, ongoing leases, and unfortunately, particular to this lease, I'd have to ask them to come back on that, but it has ranged from 3 to 4%, and we have had an issue with it not being tied to the actual GDP growth, and but we're being told by the GSD that it's a requirement for the landowner or the landlord to insist that on average it's about 3%, and that's basically what we've been seeing, 3 to 4%.
So I have a quick question. If we approve this today, then how do we protect our interests on the potential CPI adjustment down the road, since it's not been nailed down within the context of this action?
I think that it's well within the committee's right to include an instruction that it not exceed 3%.
Okay. Great. Let's do that.
Okay.
And that's what we've been doing all along?
Yes, we've seen a range of about 3 to 4%, but I think...
Well, I'd rather go with the lower
Yes.
ceiling at this point.
Yeah.
So let's amend unless you have...
No objections.
I recommend approval of this request with specific note to the CPI adjustment, and that the ceiling should not exceed 3%. And we await further information from the landlord, but at this point, in order to approve this, it can't exceed 3%.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you.
Okay. Item 7.
Item number 7 is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to a contract with Gartner Incorporated to provide information technology research and advisory subscription services.
Good morning, Melissa Fleming with the CAO. So the item before you is a request from ITA to execute a 3-year contract with Gartner Incorporated for a total compensation amount of about $952,000, which is slightly more than $300,000 per year. Gartner provides ITA and various other city departments, including DWP, the Fire Department, Building and Safety, GSD, and Sanitation, technical guidance through various IT subscription-based services. The various departments budget and fund portions of the Gartner contract in accordance with the service that each department utilizes. ITA's specific portion of the contract is about $130,000 per year. This particular contract would be retroactive to July 1, 2012, as Gartner has been providing these services since that date.
Mr. Clerk, the item is, the request or the recommendation is to continue this item because the appropriate staff would not have been available to attend this meeting. Do we now have the appropriate staff here? Is everybody here who needs to be here?
I believe we have everyone we need here.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Okay. Sorry, I was looking ahead to the wrong item. The request then has been to approve the CAO report recommendation. Mr. Buscano, do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, no comments.
All right, so then I'll recommend approval on this one.
Without objection.
Thanks. And then we'll go on to item 8. And item 8 there's a request to continue item 8 because the appropriate staff is not here for that one. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Firefighters.
Oh, here.
Fire department's here. You want to put your testimony on the record anyway? You can. Okay. All right, so then let's have that come back in 30 days. Okay. I believe that marks the end of our formal agenda. Anybody who wishes to come forward and comment on items that are not on the agenda during the public comment period, this is the time to do so. Anyone who wishes to come forward and speak during public, please come forward and give your card to the clerk, sir.
Perhaps I haven't filled it out.
You can give it to him. Why don't you speak, and then you can fill it out afterwards.
Okay. My name is Kenneth Wyrick, and I'm interested in knowing about the progress of the LA Wi-Fi project, and I reviewed the website and the current documents, and from what I can tell, it may be time to kind of review and see if potentially this could be something that could be part of the open data project. And I'm also real interested in the new acquisition of the accounting program that the city had purchased at great price, and I see the Wi-Fi as potentially being something that maybe the neighborhood councils could look at specifically for meetings. And from my research, the libraries have the best systems so far, and I mean in terms of city Wi-Fi capabilities, and so I just think these things could be talked about, and I would like to be involved in some of these discussions as they progress.
Okay. All right, maybe you can introduce yourself to the general manager of the information technology department right there and give him your card. Great. Thank you.
Very much.
Absolutely. Any other people who wish to speak during public comment? If not, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Okay.